skills are the result of a yes that has to do with love. It is love understood as music listening to us. It reveals a lack, a dimension of our being that somehow turns us into lovers of music. This is a crucial point, since the musician and the mystic would have something in common. Both, rather than loving the other, respond to the love of the other. In this view, there is no fusion between the I and the other. I agree with Weil in that Freud misunderstood this distinction when he referred to the musical experience as an oceanic feeling, a regression to the mother. Music can be conceived as an expression of a drive because it presents a tension, a drive movement. This similarity of the subject with the other arouses a hope of identity. And when the subject does not find this, instead of feeling hopeless, he creates a new way to renew the hope. He will not wait for the other, but will go towards the other. He will go to listen, to perform, to compose. It's important to clarify this notion of lack that I mentioned several times. This music seems to have this nostalgic dimension, regardless of the character of the music. It's a nostalgia we feel as a result of the lack that is structural in our beings. Maybe this is one of the reasons we enjoy sad music. Weil cites Victor Hugo, who proclaimed that nostalgia is the opposite of being sad. Hugo seems to have an insight into this well-being, a nice feeling that nostalgia brings to us. It is not only the acknowledgement of our lack, a renouncing of the object we once loved, but also a feeling of well-being that comes from living with this experience of lack. Finally, Didier Weil argues that there is a third stage after the subject realized the impossibility of finding the object and the other lack, or the object that the subject lacks. The lack is on both sides. So he concludes by saying that music, rather than being the sublimation of a sexual drive, it's more the expression of an experience of the sublime. He developed this concept of the blue note, which I refer to you. He took the concept from a paint of Delacroix. He painted Chopin playing and did the painter the blue note, and that's where the concept comes from. And start by asking, what is the power of music that can transport us from one place to another? This feeling of nostalgia, we can neither measure nor understand the nature of this nostalgic joy that will arise in the instant a note is played. In most of Western music, composers, musicians, and listeners are familiar with the binary structure of tension and release. This can be applied to different types of and styles of music. In Rachmaninoff Vocalise, for instance, we can see how every phrase is based on the tension between the harmony and the melody. We listen with increased emotion and tension because we have the hope of reaching that note that will resolve and give meaning to the phrase. That note is an example of the blue note. As a performer, it is the music that tells me with its particular structure the moment of arrival of this note. If I hold or try to possess this note at my will, I usually end up destroying the effect. Performing music, I cannot do better than the romantic hermeneutic. The experience belongs to the ineffable. I can summarize this evocative drive and blue note by saying that my body, which includes my mind and conscious, are engaged in an enthusiastic enjoyment of the Dionysian present, that at the same time is becoming a forward movement. Towards where? Weil's answer is toward the blue note. The existence of the blue note is beyond any knowledge because this point is the cause of the subject. As long as this hypothetical cause of the subject is unconscious, we also remain unconscious of its source. Our access to that point, to the effect of the blue note, is represented represented by a forward movement, a drive. When performing music, our bodily movement and production of sound involve meaning because they answer to a call, an invocation of an indefinite future. Music is a hope that waiting for that future is not in vain. Now, this idea of the process of the blue note and the evocative drive going at the same time took me to the idea of a few words about music and time. For musicians, it is a revealing concept that the word we have when listening, performing, or composing music is a word not limited to the space-time encompassed by the symbolic law. Music allows us to go from measured time into absolute time. I explain like this. In our daily world, the present goes into the future in every moment. In music, understood as a dimension of absolute time, the rhythmic aspect reminds us that the present moment, and the hope of arrival of the blue note in the future, these two things are happening together. Of course, the blue note is not in my doing, but happens as a result of the fact that I am a subject. This blue note happens as long as we remain to the present. We are waiting for the next note to come. This note has a special quality. It is offered to us in the moment we listen to it, the moment we play it, and then at the same time, escapes from us. We cannot symbolize this note, nor retain the effect that it produced on us. The fleetingness of the note in an instant reveals a secret present, namely the present moment. I think also music has something of a particular temporal dimension. You can admire sculpture for hours, but the existence of a performance is from the beginning to the end of the piece. Music presents a clear analogy with life and death, expressed in sound and silence. The meaning that the blue note conveys for us can create a sense of absolute time. The past, the present, and the future combine in a note that reveals the potentiality of an instant. Some conclusions. I think now we are in a position to give some new insight of our definition to the evocative drive. The evocative drive should be understood as a feeling of going toward the signifier, which is the holder of the ineffable. Performers, composers are in a position of creating and revealing the ineffable, bringing back to us a sound that was previously excluded from the real. Many poets have spoken metaphorically of a prison that they had to break out, in order to make the ineffable hearable. If they had to escape a symbolic code, it is because that code is incapable of representing the ineffable. While another French psychoanalyst state that music has neither meaning nor finality, I think they refer to their view of music as exceeding the sense found in language. This implies that music can undermine the hierarchical binary structure of language. Music conveys a real, a truth superior to language, but at the same time is incapable of being translated to words. The attempt to translate a musical work into a univocal reference is in direct conflict with the work itself. I'll do some objections to my work, or things that, in my view, humble opinion, I would like to continue further researching. For many performers, I will do this as a musician first, and then inside psychoanalysis. As a musician, while I agree with Bail, I would like to mention that for many performers, there are different levels of experiencing musical meaning. These levels come not only from our access to the dimension of the unconscious, but also from something that the object, music, imposes on us. Music conveys a paradoxical discourse. How can we conceive the fact that music has no external referent and the referent is the body? Neither political power nor aesthetics develop their effect through the conscious mind. The musical experience addresses its effect to the body. A work of art, a symphony for example, is something independent from the composer or performer. The musical experience imposes a collapse of the subject. Symphony is a block of sensations, a mixture of perception and affects. A chord carries an affect that goes beyond the force of those who play it. Biles is concerned with the structure of the subject. His scenario of the subject and the other produce an analogy with language, however, does not deal with a particular type of music. He does not differentiate between two ways of listening. Lacan does. Lacan in 1966 said, quotation, "The act of listening is not the same when we consider the chain of signifiers as when considering the modulation of a voice. In other words, its musical capacity." End of quotation. That made me think about the voice that sings. Perhaps it's not the voice articulating language. Perhaps we should develop ideas to this concept to find, as Barthes would say, the grain of the voice, something that makes us differentiate a sound like Rostropovich from another cellist or Maria Callas from another singer. While also I find Biles' contribution relevant, I also think that although language is the only tool we have, there is nothing else to explore the problem of the musical experience. It is not only in language that we can experience the phenomena of the perception and the sensation. I see music as a point of insufficiency of language, something that does not respond to the regimen of language. The satisfaction we feel in Piazzolla harmony or the melancholy that invades us from Rachmaninoff music, it seems rather the result of a collapse of the language mode. If I have established dichotomies such as language, music, rationality, sensation, it's not because I want to stop raising the question of meaning. It is more than that. It is the difficulty of establishing a clear frontier line between these terms. Something is lost in the traffic of meaning that does not get organized in binary structure. Now, the blue note concept is something that I embrace totally. Biles' theory leaves space also to consider music on another existential level. Lévi-Strauss considered the blue note as a point of zero significance. And although the blue note is expected, this does not mean that does not surprise the audience. The blue note does not only provoke jouissance. Music discourse or road toward the blue note is a preliminary pleasure, as in love prelude or foreplay. It has the connotation of a promise of greater pleasure. At first, when performing or listening music, we are in the terrain of the other. If certain music appeals to us or moves us, it is because that music offers a response to a question that we already had. The discovery that music reveals in us dimensions that we did not know allow us to question whether music reveals or creates the divided subject. When we perform a piece, a Bach prelude for example, we can express the architecture of the piece knowing that music is never a consummated thing, but always in the process of becoming. The meaning we attribute to it is not a culmination of something that starts at the beginning of the phrase. It's rather the realization of a promise we put into music beforehand. The task of the performer is to play music in a way that allows the member of the audience to abolish themselves as an other totally different from the performer. It is as if the performer says to the audience, "You have the right to expect from me which I find and make you realize its existence, namely the blue note." My cello teacher used to say that a more precise word than performer, it's co-creator, along with the composer, because it's our responsibility to express something exterior to us, and at the same time it's part of ourselves. So I end up today by saying to you that performers can create a discourse that conveys the particularity of a hope, an expectation. In other words, a realization of a promise that could be just that chord, that note, or that dynamic point. In the search for the blue note, the performer is a co-creator.
I hope we'll have some questions. Please go to the microphone with your questions because we're recording. So just step up to a microphone and we'll take your questions from there. Sure, there are many of you would like to clarify some of these ideas or talk about your own sense of some of this.
Hi, I'm Anita Schmuggler. I just want to